Hi, Autumn. Good to see you. Thanks for coming to hang out. I'm still trying to get the hang of YouTube here. Hey, Krista. Hi, Yuri. Hello, friends. Good to see you guys. Hi, Beluga. I've got Ruby with me here, too. Here she is, snoozing. A second baby shower. Oh, man. Well, do you have a theme? Do you need a theme? I don't know. I'm not good at party planning. To anyone just joining, hey, I'm Sarah. This is a place for people who are deconstructing and want to talk about it. Hey, Dr. Joe, thank you for braving YouTube. I appreciate it. Hi, Em. Oh, that's really adorable, Autumn. I love that. Hey, checkers. Oh, hi, Spark. Well, thanks for joining from the airport, and I hope you have a safe flight. If you notice, I have a Band-Aid on my finger. Checkers was being sassy today. I got the brunt end of it. Oh, hello from the UK. It's morning there. That's awesome. For anyone just joining, hi, welcome. No, I'm not going to scream at the top of my lungs. Oh, good. Well, I hope it was a good trip. So welcome anyone who's coming for the first time. I'm Sarah, and this is a place for people who are questioning their faith, deconstructing their faith. Hi, Bugger. Yeah, it's not strictly for atheists, but it's a place for people who are wanting to talk about the process of questioning their faith. People in that position who want to find some community, some places to talk about that. So you don't have to be an atheist, but that's kind of what the discussion is geared towards. Hi, Angela. Welcome. Hey, Ryan. What about Catholicism? Yeah, so I generally don't do a lot of like debates per se, more like places to talk and ask questions. Matthew, hi. Yikes. Oh, is this not if it's not your thing, I guess? Yeah, not all deconstruction ends in atheism. I agree. So we definitely want to be, a place for people who are deconstructing, no matter where your beliefs end up. Why are we here? I don't know. I mean, logistically, because our parents had us, but more metaphysically, I don't know. Hi, Night Shift. Hey, Al, welcome. Glad you're here. So for anyone new, this is a place for us to chat about deconstruction and questioning your faith and, meeting people who are going through the same thing. I don't understand why YouTube has some of the strangest people. Thanks. Take care, TT. Tyler asked, what faith specifically did you leave? I left Protestant Christianity. Oh, really, Em? Hi, Justin. Justin says, all dogs go to heaven, checkmate atheists. It is a really interesting question, though, to ask Christians. Like when I was a Christian, I didn't think that animals went to heaven because I didn't think that they had souls, you know? Tube asks, what do you believe now? So I don't believe in anything supernatural, if that's what you're asking. Jen asked, what made you begin to initially question your faith? For me, it was the doctrine of hell. That was something that, like, as my perspective changed, stopped making sense to me. Thanks, Wild Man. So can I email a video about my doubting and angry at God? You can, if you want to chat about that, I'm easier to reach on TikTok. So I have the same handle at TikTok. Hi from Ashland, Ohio. So rental office, I actually, I have read the entire Bible cover to cover. What do you think happens to souls? I don't think that we have souls. I don't, yeah, I think this is just kind of it. Hi, Asayaki. Hi. Justin, Greg Simmons is the one here from Ashland. Wild Man, I have the same handle on TikTok, so you can just find me there and send me a message if you want to. Thanks, Tyler. May I ask what you mean? Hi, Al. What I mean by what? I have not read the Apocrypha, no. I don't know how to link it, Wild Man, but if you just go to TikTok and search my handle, you'll find it. I gotta be honest, Sangram, that is the first time someone has said that I have a cold stare. But you know what? I'll take it. Maybe I'm entering my villain era. No, I have not read the Book of Mormon either. Hi, Andrew. Tube, are you asking a physiology question? Tube says, "What's filling the body? It's not just a machine." Your organs are filling your body. This is my villain origin story. Hi, Josh. Rental, my TikTok account is the same handle. So it's at Leaving Faith. Nope, just TikTok. Yeah, Beth says, does anyone else have trouble holding on to some kind of hope? I don't mean for that to be dramatic, genuinely asking. Losing faith is a rough process. It is a very rough process. And I think it takes a long time to adjust. I mean, you're seeing the world from an entirely different perspective, and everything has kind of flipped upside down. So, I mean, I honestly, I don't think that's dramatic. I think you're going through an enormous change. Um, and I would second what Charles says. Recovering from religion, that organization is really awesome. And they have a lot of support. The other thing is, especially if you're in that place of trying to find um, meaning and hope and, you know, not nihilism. Brittany Hartley is a great resource. Her handle usually is no nonsense spirituality. I would definitely recommend checking her out too. Unforeseen says, would you describe yourself as an atheist now? So I describe myself as an agnostic atheist, meaning that I don't believe in God, but I also don't think I can know for sure. So I'm still open to new evidence. It is technically possible that there's something else out there. Yeah, Andrew says basically reworking your whole psychology. Outdoor Guy says, without God, how is there any absolute morality, or is it all relativistic? If it's relativistic, how can you describe something as just or unjust? So, certainly as humans, when we have language, we agree on the meanings of those words. And so within our society and our culture and our language, we can decide on what like the meanings of words are. And the idea that you have to believe in a God to have absolute morality doesn't really hold up, because then what you're saying is whatever God does and whatever God likes, we're just going to label that as good. But you still don't have any yardstick to measure God's actions to determine if they're good. You're just saying, well, God is powerful, therefore, and he created us, therefore he must be good. And so when you are getting your morals from the Bible, you are also using subjective morality. From the time you first started your doubts, how long did it take to completely abandon the faith? So my period of questioning was about a year. And after about a year is when I stopped believing. Jennifer said, how do you know if you're right? Well, I think that's the difficult thing to process is there's not an authority to tell you if you're right. I completely understand how appealing that is to someone. You want an authority to say who's right and who's wrong, so you can appeal to that authority. And if it's just us humans, mucking around, we just have to figure things out the best we can. Yeah, Asayake. Definitely, if you have access to therapy, it sounds like that would be a great option. So Mew, it sounds like you didn't really understand what I just said. Um, Mew says, God is the one who says what's moral and what isn't. That's because he's literally God, LOL. He's the maker. Right. So what I'm saying then is you're just saying God is powerful because God creates, then the things he do, we are going to label as good. The things that he likes, we're going to label as good. But there's no objective standard that you are measuring God's actions against. Just because someone creates doesn't mean that they are good. And so it's still subjective morality, even if you get it from a God. You're welcome. John says the Bible doesn't even have a clear indication of morality. Read Exodus 21, Deuteronomy 21, Leviticus, Samuel. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the God of the Bible does some things that we would definitely think are immoral. Thanks, T. I appreciate it. Tim says, very much appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And yeah, YouTube is definitely a different vibe. So also thank you to my moderators. But yeah, I'm glad it's good to know it's helpful. Mark asks, what do you consider good? It honestly, I know this is going to sound like I'm waffling, but it depends on the context. I mean, the word good can be applied to food, to art. It can be applied to actions, and so it depends. Green says, if morality is subjective, doesn't that mean anything can be morally correct? Sounds like anarchy. What are your thoughts? So, even though morality is subjective, that doesn't mean that we don't have moral codes. It just changes how we come to those moral codes. And so we can, as a society, agree what types of behavior we are going to accept and what types of behavior we are not. And generally, morality is grounded in our ability to experience empathy. And so, kind of at its rudimentary base level, morality centers around trying not to cause harm, because we know, I know what it feels like when someone harms me, and I know it feels bad. And when I harm someone else, that also feels bad. I can feel their pain with them. And so that's why, even though we as humans are different from each other, we still have a lot of overlapping morals. Because again, they're originating from that place of empathy. Let's see. Mark says, but in the context of God and the difference between life and death, what would you call good? I mean, do you mean what would make God good? Canna says theistic morality has to get around Euthyphro's dilemma. What's that dilemma? What about God would you consider good? Um, well, we can start with not causing harm, um, and taking care of the creatures he creates. Pyrotech says a morality that can improve is superior to one that cannot. I think I agree, although I'm guessing the theistic argument would be that, um, sorry, I was reading and thinking at the same time. The argument would be that if morality starts as perfect, it doesn't need to improve, but I haven't seen any evidence of that, so I agree. Hi, Minnie. Oh, thanks, Justin. Okay. Is something good because God says it is, or is goodness a property of the thing God recognizes? Yeah. And I think that's sort of what I was saying without knowing the name of that dilemma. Yeah. Just a dude says God's morality could be literally anything and be deemed good by definition, which makes the meaning of morality arbitrary. Definitely. Greg, is that for me? My tagline says hell is never just. I so I think we agree with each other that yes, there's nothing that justifies hell. Hi, NK. Andrew asked, was it your experience that after you left the faith, your compassion increased? As I'm going further away from Christianity, I feel so much more compassion. Don't have a great reason why, though. Yeah, I think so too. I think part of it is, as as our perspective changes and we are stepping into more people's shoes, our empathy and compassion increases, right? Because now we've been on both sides of the equation. And I think you don't have to see the world through these lenses of, this really narrow, rigid definition of what is good. You can see all these people as just humans being humans and trying the best that they can. Mark says, can we agree that life is good, happiness is good, and any type of harm is evil or bad? No, we can't agree to that. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, Pyra says, I'm not even sure evil is real, to be honest. Perhaps ignorance, but at the end of the day, we are just animals that have certain tastes for what we like or dislike that we call good or bad. Um, I don't think that there is evil in the sense of like an external force, like a supernatural force of evil. Um, I think humans can harm each other quite a bit. But yeah, it's different than believing in like evil as its own thing. Yeah, Dr. Joe says my judgment reduced. And I think I think that happens for a lot of us, that We have more compassion and we have more empathy and less judgment. Mm. Canna says, I love Nietzsche's quote, there is no such thing as a moral phenomena, only moral interpretation of phenomena. Yeah, absolutely. I like that a lot. That, we as humans interpret things as good or bad, but the actual sort of universe is neutral. Mark asks, why would any type of harm not be considered bad? I guess it depends on how you're defining harm. But sometimes things that are painful or uncomfortable end up being good things, right? Justin uses the example of a vaccination. Um, so while generally, yes, I think harm is bad, I do think that there's nuance to it. Yeah, Andrew says maybe another aspect of it is that Christianity makes such a black and white approach, looking at others as saved or unsaved, rather than people who equally deserve love. And I think that happens so much in evangelical Christianity, particularly, where even though it's supposed to be that no one deserves heaven and we're all sinners, what ends up culturally happening is this belief that we're all choosing to believe or not believe, and so all the non-believers, well, they're choosing that and they're bad, but we made the better choice, and it becomes about good people and bad people. Oh, interesting, Kiana. I haven't read that. Mark says, do you understand what God actually is? So, Mark, that question is presupposing that you, Mark, do understand. You have access to the truth. And you, as a human, understand what God really is. And you're wondering if I have the same understanding that you have. But I mean, I can tell you the Christian understanding of God. I can tell you the atheist understanding of God. But I don't even know what you personally think. Do you think belief is a choice? I do not personally. No, belief is not a choice. Kaylee says, how do we get over the fear of hell? That's something that I struggle with. Yeah, and you're not alone in that, Kaylee. I think so many people who are deconstructing struggle with the fear of hell. And in fact, there's many people who came all the way to being an atheist and still have that fear of hell. So just know that you're not alone in experiencing that. And the organization Recovering from Religion might be helpful. They have a lot of like support groups and resources. So I would definitely check them out. NK says, doesn't the Bible say no one knows the ways of God? So when Christians say, I know who God is, this can be interpreted so many ways. Yeah, I get that a lot. When I ask a difficult question about God, I will often have Christians basically saying, like, well, who are you to question God? You're just a fallible human, and no one can know God, and no one can understand God. And especially lean not on your own understanding, right? Oh, you're leaning on your own understanding. You gotta stop doing that. And I'm actually fine with that line of reasoning, in that if there is this infinite, transcendent being that is so different from humanity, it's actually reasonable to me that we couldn't understand it. But if we can't understand it, then you don't get to make any claims about it. And that's where I mean, I'm agreeing with you. That's where we see that contradiction is believers will say, you can't use your own understanding and we can't understand God, and then go in to make claims about God. Yeah, Pyro says, plus I'm sure I'm going to hell in every other religion and that doesn't scare me. Yeah, it is interesting. Like, I get Christians all the time asking me, aren't you afraid that you're going to hell? You know, what if you're wrong? Why take the risk? And it's really interesting to ask them, well, how afraid are you that you're going to hell in other people's religions? Does it keep you up at night? Are you worried about it? And the answer, of course, is no. Yeah, Just a Dude says, you don't choose to be convinced of something, although you can sort of fake believe or bias the information you listen to. Yeah, so I always get a strong reaction when talking about choosing to believe, and I don't think you can. I don't think you can choose what you believe. And yes, there are lots of things you can choose, right? You can choose how you spend your time. You can choose what media you consume. You can choose who you hang out with. And so you can choose to try to believe something. You could choose to surround yourself with something. But at the end of the day, you cannot make yourself be convinced of something if you're not convinced of it. So, time, the idea that if I knew God, how could I ever unknow him? So, you're right, you can't unknow a person, but you can't unknow a person because you can visually see them and audibly hear them. But I mean, with a person, they can certainly change so much that you don't feel like you know them anymore. But with God, you are talking into the void and trusting that someone is listening. You are reading this ancient text and waiting for God to speak to you through it. You are reading about God, how God is talking to other people. So that's not the same thing as having a relationship with someone who audibly talks back. And so you can, for a while, be really convinced that there is someone up there listening, and eventually not be convinced of that anymore. No, Alex, it's really not a choice. You cannot make yourself believe something if you're not convinced it's true. Yeah, so I agree with Pyro's answer here too. Do you believe the Big Bang theory for the creation of the universe? So yeah, the Big Bang is the expansion of the universe, not the creation of the universe. Hi, Alaric. Hi. James says, everyone needs personal experience, and mocking the one you wish to have that experience with isn't the best way to go about it. James, what about this live is coming across as mocking? Yes, Jacob, I have tried seeking God alone in prayer. Do you think morality is learned or is it something one is born with? Both, in that we have innate sense of empathy and logic, and so we certainly um, have kind of things that we are born with, and our culture and our experiences and our relationships will also shape our morality. Alex says, so if believing isn't a choice, then neither is behavior. No, what a strange jump. That's incorrect. You absolutely can control your behavior. Um, so I'm not sure how you're making that leap. Yeah, Beth says the best way I can explain it is once you realize Santa isn't real, it's hard to go back to believing he was. Right. And it's such a good example, but it always falls on deaf ears because as soon as I bring up the word Santa, I have a lot of Christians saying, "Are you calling God Santa?" Like, no, no, I'm not. It's just a good example of something that you used to be convinced of and now you are not. Hi. James, what context do you think I was missing? Hey, I need to plug in my phone. Sorry, 1 second. Oops, sorry. There we go. Okay. I'm doing fine, thanks. Greg says, can love be sincere when it is commanded or threatened? The answer to this question disproves Christianity and its whole basis. Um, Yeah, and this is such an interesting circle to go in because Christians tell me all the time how important free will is, and that yeah, you can't have love if you don't have free will. But then the situation that they describe is one in which you have to love God, and if you don't, you face eternal suffering. Hi, Tony. Well, thanks, Golden. SM says, as an atheist, the one question I have the most trouble reconciling is why am I specifically behind these eyes? I don't see how theism solves that, but I think about it. Yeah, I mean, the idea that like why you specifically you in this particular arrangement of atoms with this particular, proclivities, it's hard to reconcile that with just being chance. So, James, just to, oh, there's two James. James without the last name. A lot of times I'm speaking back and forth to Christians or I'm speaking back and forth to people who've deconstructed Christianity. And I'm talking about the conversations that I have with Christians rather than I'm not presenting what is scholarly accepted as theologically correct. So for you to say that it's incorrect to say we can't understand God, um, I mean, I agree that there is a lot of context in the Bible that would suggest we can understand a lot of things. I'm more pointing out the argument that the Christian is making is not a logical argument, not let's stick exactly with what the Bible says. All right, Alex, I don't think you're really equipped for this conversation. Canna says, was there a specific conversation you had with somebody that you think may have been the start of your deconstruction? Not for me. No, it wasn't a conversation. The thing that kind of started the dominoes tumbling was the death of somebody close to me who was not a believer. And so I just saw the whole doctrine of hell from a really different light. Max asked, what does deconstructed Christian mean? So like the process of deconstruction is a critical examination of your faith. And so it just means like going through a process of trying to figure out, why do I believe the things that I believe? How did I arrive at this belief? And so people can come to that and end up in a lot of different places. Oh, thank you so much, Jay Corling. I appreciate that. Jay says, found out about you from Justin's channel. Greetings. Keep up the good work. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks. I'm happy to see you. Oops. Oh, well, thank you, Colin. Have you ever seen or experienced an actual miracle? Not something that couldn't have any other explanation, no. John Paul says, the start of my deconstruction was when I compared the Jehovah's Witnesses with the Catholic Church. Pretty interesting way of doing it. Yeah, it's so interesting to do kind of an analysis of another religion. And when you are going through the reasons why you don't believe that other religion, then you try and take those reasons back to yours. I had a sort of similar experience when I was in college. I had Mormon missionaries come by and knock on my door. And at the time I was like, yes, I'm ready. Like, me, this strong Christian, I'm going to convert these Mormon missionaries. And of course they thought, great, we're going to convert this, girl who doesn't believe in the Book of Mormon. And we talked for like 3 hours. It was forever. But what is interesting was, all the criticisms that I had of the Book of Mormon, they could say, well, that criticism actually applies to the Bible too. Oh, thanks. Golden says, is your profile pic your dog? He or she is so cute. Yes, that is Ruby. And actually, let's do that the wrong way. Whoop, there's Ruby. She is sleeping by my feet because she's the best. No, James, that's incorrect. Oh, sorry, there's two James. James Crockett, that's incorrect. Nightwing says punishment in hell is based on the sins one committed in their life. God judges fairly. So if you believe in eternal punishment, then it doesn't seem fair in that we have a finite life. So, how could we do anything that merits infinite, never ever ending punishment? Thanks, NK. Yes, Ruby is a Pyrenees. Yep. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Pyro says the problem with God knowing everything means God knows who will go to hell when he makes them, which means he makes people knowing they will go to hell, which makes God evil. Yeah, this is also a really difficult conversation that I have with people because we kind of go in circles in that um, the argument I hear from Christians all the time is that God might know the future, but it's still up to you. You're still choosing. And kind of neglecting the fact that actually God designed you. And so if he knew as he was making you how you were going to turn out, that is on him. Oh, hi from Manchester. Do I have a dog? Yes, I do. I have a dog named Ruby. Oh man, how often have you encountered presuppositionalists and do you engage with their arguments? I mean, I engage to a point, but you'll see me kind of not answering a lot of the comments because like the point of my lives is not debate. Sometimes I do it a little bit, but the point of my lives is to have a place for people who are deconstructing to talk about that. So a little bit maybe. Hi, Allison. Celsa says deconstruction was not actually difficult for me. I was more angry than anything. I felt like I was lied to, and then I walked through life with blinders on, not realizing what was around me. I think so many of us who deconstructed felt angry for some amount of time. So I think you're definitely not alone in that. Mark, this live is not for me to tell a testimony of and explain why I was a believer to Christians. This is a place for people who are deconstructing. So Golden says, but we have a choice if we want forever with him or if we want to be apart from him. He won't force us. So I appreciate that, you're trying to view this as God just giving us freedom, but it can't be a choice if you don't believe that God exists at all. Like I can't choose if I want to be with God forever because I don't even think he exists. So that choice right now is not even available to me. But the other problem I think with framing it that way as a choice is that maybe on one end of the equation, if you're saying, well, he won't force you to be in heaven, but he will force you to be in hell then. And a lot of times, people just don't believe in God, and that is not the same thing as saying, I want nothing to do with you and I want to be away from you forever. Some people haven't heard of God, the Christian God, or don't really know much about him, or heard the stories and didn't find them convincing. And that is not the same thing as saying I'm choosing not to believe in God or not to spend time with God. Stephen says, recovering Catholic here, so much better without faith. I'm out for decades and I'm still pissed. Hi, Dope. I am an ex-Christian, if that helps. Golden says, I wasn't trying to start an argument or anything, just sharing my thoughts and hear yours as well. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I didn't take that as an argument. So I appreciate your thoughts too. Nightwing says he has to abide by his nature of justice. It's interesting the way sometimes Christians describe God as beholden to these laws that seem to be even external to God. Have you ever talked to someone who's had a near-death experience? Yes. Just a Dude says, if I struggle with self-doubt about my beliefs and morality based on a Christian background, is that something that counseling is good for, or am I just not convinced enough that Christianity is false? I definitely think like counseling and therapy can be helpful to getting like an outside perspective on what's happening inside your head. So I can't weigh in on any of that any more than that because it's outside my expertise. But I mean, I can say that having, you know, a trained professional hear all the stuff that's happening in your head, and they can kind of help you figure out what it means. So I have found therapy to be very helpful. Denise says, I chose to seek out a personal relationship with the Yahweh character, and he chose not to respond. Would seeing a third of a spine that was virtually gone be completely restored change your view on miracles? So when you say virtually gone, do you mean the vertebrae are missing? And when you say completely restored, do you mean the vertebrae reappeared? If you have documentation of that, I'm very interested. Beth says, it was definitely a grieving process for me. Yeah, me too. It was a lot of grief. God is real says, what do you think about the fact that the Bible predicted many would leave the faith in the last days? Also, the Bible's depiction of the last days seems similar to today's world. I think the idea that many will fall away is a claim that is so vague, it's not verifiable. How many people count as many? You know, anytime there's a demographic change in the number of Christians, you could say that that's happening. So I don't find that to be very convincing. Well, Mark, if you have like X-rays and imaging that medical professionals have demonstrated vertebrae, again, I've never heard of vertebrae dissolving. Um, what do you mean by dissolved? Like the actual, are you talking about just like disc degeneration or like the actual vertebrae? Yeah, skeptic says people leave religion all the time. That's like saying many people in the last days will die. What do I think about female pastors? I think women should be pastors, but again, I'm not a Christian anymore, so. Hey, nope says sounds like you're the beginning of your journey. How long have you held your position? So I stopped believing in God back in 2009. So it's Aiden, I just answered your question. There's no need to yell. So I have been in this place for about 15 years. Well, Mark, if I actually saw that, particularly in person, I might find that convincing, but it's not, it didn't happen to me. It didn't happen to anyone I could see or know. So just like hearing you explain it to me over the internet will not be convincing. Yeah, so if her vertebrae were, if she had multiple fractures, those could heal. Like bones can, you have a process basically of bones um, like resorpting themselves and can build themselves back. So bones healing themselves and essentially regrowing within themselves would be within the realm of normal physiology. Oh, well, thanks, Becky. I'm so glad it's been helpful for you. Hi, Fortnite. Welcome. Oh, you're so welcome, Feather. NK says, what do you think about people who are denying their sexuality and stopping themselves because they think it's an abomination? That is absolutely heartbreaking for someone to think that about themselves because they were told that. Um, I think trying to hide a huge part of yourself causes a lot of damage. And I think it's absolutely heartbreaking. Hi, JP. Thank you. Answering questions outside of expertise. So, just to kind of clarify, nope, I am not, I'm just creating this space as a place for people who are deconstructing. If someone asks me what I think about something, I'll answer, but I'm happy to, like, I very clearly state I am not a scholar. And so that's why this is not a debate space. If you do want to ask me about bone regeneration, though, we can talk about that. My area of expertise is human physiology. What is your biggest problem with Christianity? Well, um, I would say my biggest issue is particularly with evangelical Christianity, in that it teaches that we all deserve to go to hell. Um, I think that does so much damage to the way you see yourself and the way that you see everybody around you. Nope. If you're interested, maybe go to my page. I have an FAQ section. That might be helpful. Becky asks, do you think deconstruction is gaining more popularity, or is it just more people are speaking up and sharing? I mean, I think social media has definitely changed a lot. We know a lot more about it. We have more places to talk about it. Um, in the US, I can say generally more people are leaving the church. Um, but I don't know. The idea of deconstruction is a little bit harder to measure. Yeah, and Kay says it does damage psychologically, and then people need therapy after. Oh, interesting. Seth says, I'm an ex-Christian and ex-evangelical. In fact, the Sunday assembly in my area has been a great place to find community. It's been called the Atheist Church, but it's more than that. Oh, that's cool. I know a lot of people find community in like Unitarian Universalist churches as well. Do I think there's free will in the Bible? So it really depends on what definition of free will we're using. Usually, when we talk about free will in this context, we're not using the dictionary definition. The dictionary definition is, the ability to make choices without the burden of fate or consequence. And I don't think anyone has that, and that's not in the Bible. If you just mean, do humans have the ability to make some choices, then it seems that yes, they do. God is Real says, the thing is, if the universe came from nothing, how is that science when everything has a cause? So scientists don't think that the universe came from nothing. Alrighty, friends, I actually have to get going. I need to call it a night and go to bed. But thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to do this on Tuesdays. So Tuesday's going to be my night for YouTube. I do this on TikTok almost every night though. It's the same handle over on TikTok at Leaving Faith, and that's an easier way to get a hold of me. And I go live on there a lot more frequently. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the time. And I will see you all again soon.